Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hack the Box Ottawa Meetup. I'm your host, JF Provost, my co-host, Steve Bowers. Happy to see you again. Hopefully, you're going to have fun as much as I'm going to have as well.
Yeah, nice to see you again too, man. And happy everyone showed up. And yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. That's for sure. So we have a great machine here. We're going to be able to learn a lot. The goal, again, just to reiterate it, is not just to do the hacking of the machine, but it's also to learn different techniques that can be done. And then our great friend Steve Bauer is going to be able to elaborate on the blue team side. So there is content for everyone. Obviously, we're not going to be able to touch like everything because we have 2 hours, and 2 hours is not enough to be able to learn everything there is, right? But we're going to do our best to cover as much as we can and give you the content that you're looking for. So do you have anything to share that's anything cooking that's coming soon or happened a little while ago this month?
Not a whole lot other than the holiday season and getting a lot of texts from people saying, hey, is this link legit? Your order status is, your payment is due for. No, it's not. It's not legit. Did you order anything? No. Okay, well then it's not legit. I'm sure we're all getting that all the time.
Yeah. So I don't know for the company that you're working for, obviously what Steve is referring to. If you have cybersecurity awareness program into your organizations, you may see some emails to try to test you out, but also is to try to protect the companies, right? So if you have something like this, you're probably going to remember exactly what it is. But then for himself, if you receive that as well, you're being trained on that scale, right? So if you have any spams against your email or your phone number, it's all the things that are going to be helpful to recognize those type of attacks that are happening against you, right? So that's very, very important. There's also something else that came up in the news in the last couple of, I think, 2 weeks or so. Maybe a little bit more, correct me if I'm wrong, but 23andMe got hacked as well, which is the ancestral place where you're going to send, let's say, saliva directly to that location, and they're going to try to do a DNA on you and figure it out your tree, like family tree or something like that. So that's something, again, that's the reality. We have to understand that it is going to happen as long as we're here in cybersecurity while IT is being utilized and so on. So we need to make sure that we're protected. We need to know and understand how to do things such as, let's say, basic minimal patching and so on to be able to protect ourselves. But obviously, can you protect yourself against 0 days, Steve?
Not if you think you wait, how do I put that?
Yeah, you can try to mitigate, but is it going to stop everything? No.
Yeah.
Right.
If we don't know enough about the attack, we don't know enough about the defense, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what happens. Like if you have a persistent threat, what they're going to do is they could just take a look at your system and just trying to figure it out. Oh, okay, so this guy seems to be well protected. I'll take a look. I don't know, in a week from now, a month from now, and keep taking a look. And then eventually, as soon as you make one mistake, you're going to be you're going to have an issue. So it is what it is, but we are into this reality, and we have to live with it, unfortunately. So yeah, so hopefully you guys have a lot to learn. Feel free to comment on either both Discords or directly on the YouTube channel with the Hack the Box Ottawa Meetup. And then we're going to try to monitor this and answer your questions as we're moving along. Obviously, we might not be able to answer them all, but if we can, if we cannot, we're going to try to come back to them. So yeah, good. So I think we're ready to go to fire this up. If you need access to the machine, we have a channel into Discord that says server connection, server access. So if you ask or request access over there, one of us can try to give you access over there. You're going to be able to hack away, right? So it's all free. There's no charge at all. Obviously, there's a time limit, but that's something you can take advantage of. So if you need it, just hop on there. You should have also the link in the video descriptions of this live stream if you need to get access, right? So feel free to do that. And obviously, this is not monitored. Like we're not going to be there to support you throughout your hacking session there. But obviously, as we're moving along for us, if you're able to follow, that's perfect. Sounds good. All right, I think that's all I have. Do you have anything else, Steve?
Good to go.
Good to go. All right, sounds good. So let's bring this one over here. Whoops, I guess that's the wrong one. There we go. Got it. All right, see you later, Steve. All right, everyone. So at this point, we have our machine, right? So this is the one that normally is going to be I'm going to be utilizing. Like I told you, you have hey Alex. So you have the actual. I'm gonna get Pwnbox. There we go. Pwnbox is being provided by Hack the Box at this point, so it's easy enough that if you don't have any like VM machines and you need to do something, or at least you want to do something, you want to do a hack, it's going to be easy enough to be able to jump in. You just select it, you have your machine, you start it, and then good to go. Boom, you're gonna have all your stuff. You don't need to do anything else, right? So as you can see here, we already have access. I already have my machine. If you give me a second, I have my IP address. I'm going to copy. So if I were to do a ping and then paste it here, I see that I have response back, right? So it's easy enough to be able to do whatever we need to do to be able to move forward without doing anything. So if you have like during the holidays, that's probably one of the best example. During the holidays, if you get access to either the academy or the dedicated labs, you just need to basically log in and then get your stuff started. Obviously, like if you talk about on the private side, like or the public side, I should say, like you, the user, just subscribe to Hack the Box. You're gonna need like a VIP or VIP Plus subscription, but that's the way to go. I think it's I think for VIP, we need to check. I don't want to be too wrong, but I think it's roughly around 120 per year, right? So it's going to give you access to like well over 400 machines and then plus Pwnbox. So if you get to be at your mom's place or you get to see family and friends, whatever, you're going to be able to utilize this to your advantage. And that's basically what I'm doing right now to show you how powerful this is. All right, so as usual, whenever we start doing the hacking, we need to whenever we want to do the enumeration onto one machine, we need to figure it out what that machine is. So most of the time, and I already showed you, we have the nmap command that we can start and go around. So we got two people, MP, hey, and then Nayslayer, hello to you as well. Happy to see you here, or both of you here. So now we're going to do an nmap, like I was saying, nmap, and we're going to copy this one over here, the IP. We're going to go simple, okay? The reason behind that is if we're conducting, okay, so there's two scenarios. If we're playing on Hack the Box, it doesn't matter. You can go as far as you'd like, right? But if you're trying to be as discreet as possible, so make less noise as possible, that's something like this you could do. Figure it out which port are currently open, right? In this case, it wouldn't matter too much, but let's do a mixture of all of that. So nmap, we're going to do again the same thing, okay? But instead, we're going to pinpoint on port 80, and then we have 22 in this case, okay? So these two we could take a look at and go a little bit further. We can do like an aggressive. We could take a look at some of the common default scripts, or we could try to go for versioning, right? So it's all depend on what you need to do. And you remember you have a module into the Academy where you can explore multiple options there. That's something you can take a look at and go even further. So in this case, we could do SC, SV and give it a try, or SA would have been also Tick A, capital A would have been also another option to be able to get this done. We're going to do this. You're wondering about anything while this is happening. Keep in mind, we always have help, right? That we can take a look and navigate through some of the options, right? The options are not necessarily self-explanatory 100%. So sometimes we can do also man and map. I don't know if there's one that has one. Yeah, this one has one. So we can go in there like into the manual of nmap, okay? So that's another way to be able to find those options you have for nmap, not necessarily all displayed or all well explained into the options from tick help, okay? All right, sounds good. So now we can move on to the next portion of our enumeration. So we're finding out that we have obviously these two ports that are open. There's 8.2. So there's not much here on port 22. If we take a look in Jinx 1.18.0, that could be interesting to take a look at. If you remember also in the okay, so log into Cacti. So that could be very interesting to take a look. It seems that we may have a login page offered to us. And if you remember in the last session that we were covering, there is also something that sometimes you can do to try to add it up. So because we have MonitorTwo, what we're going to do is we're going to add into the Etsy host. Okay, we're going to go here. Whoops. I need to put nano here and then go in there. Okay, so we already have our IP, which is here. We're gonna do what I do when I'm here. Okay, I do just a tab. Okay, so if you're wondering, I'm not doing an actual space, I'm doing a tab. A space I think would work, but I've just been used to do a tab. So MonitorTwo, okay, .htb. So basically, the host file, what it indicates is as soon as I'm going to type this into the browser, like the actual MonitorTwo.htb, that file here will be looked at by the browser, and then we'll look which IP is attached to it. Okay, so keep in mind, if you're making a mistake in this at this point on, and for example, you need to go enter a subdomain. A subdomain could be like server. Served, for example, and then we have monitors 2.htb. Okay, so that's a subdomain. But if you make a mistake here and then you try to go there, it might create an issue in the long run with your browser, because your browser is going to cache this in, right? It might not look again, so you may need to clear cache if you want to try to correct that mistake and be able to get back into it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's a mistake that I've done in the past. I was troubleshooting, and then took me a while to figure it out, but it is what it is. I just need to keep that in mind. Good. All right, so now we're going to save it under host. Keep in mind, I did a sudo to be able to access that file. If you don't do that, you're not going to be able to get there. Let me see. Perfect. So let's keep moving over here. All right, so now we have port 80. What we're going to do, we're going to start Firefox, go take a look real quick and see what we have in there. Oh, it copied the other thing because I highlighted it. Oh, I guess I can just enter MonitorTwo. There we go. Because that's what we did. There's 2.htb. Oh, okay, so that's another thing too we have to keep in mind in this browser. HTTP, very important. Otherwise, it's going to do a Google search on this. So obviously, we could try to take a look at some other write-ups, but that's not the goal to in our case. Okay, so if you guys remember, whenever you get to a user login page, one of the first thing you could give it a try. Obviously, it depends on what you're trying to look. If we're thinking about hack the box, should be fine and good to go. Should not be a problem, right? So we could do, let's say, admin, right? So that could be one. Is it going to work? Nope, it's not working. We could do password, for example. Don't save. Access denied. Login failed. We could do password 123. Like we could go for a long time. Might be hard. What we could do also is, like, let's say a tick or 1 = 1, right? Dash dash space dash. And that's another one that we could do. Obviously, I don't know if you guys know what that type of attack is. Is there somebody that can recall what it is and write it in the comments? It could be on YouTube or Discord. I'll give you a couple seconds to go through, because I think we have about 5 to 10 seconds delay in between. Anybody knows? Brute force. Okay, yeah, if we do the admin, brute force, like admin password 123, that's a brute force. Nayslayer, yes. For what I was looking for, that was the SQL injection. So Yasmin, you're not wrong. Maybe I was not clear enough, but you're right onto that first aspect of what I was trying to do. Brute force attack. The second one, SQL injection, completely right on trying to get things done through this. So there's multiple ways of being able to do those SQL injection. Okay. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve here. Is there any type of SQL injection that could go through? One of the worst thing that could be happening is if they're monitoring this, they could basically catch you, right? So that could be an issue there. Seems to be removing a couple of things, but it doesn't seem to work. So that's not maybe an attack we're going to be able to do. Other options would be to, again, do what Yasmin was talking about, but probably a little bit deeper and use either Medusa. We have other tools as well that could be utilized to be able to do a brute force attack if we know the username, if we think he could be that. Another thing too we can think about is default credentials. I'm just thinking about this. Default credentials, right, for CACT web app. So we can try to figure it out if there's anything. The CACT web interface explain here, admin. So that could be directly linked to that. We can probably try to take a look a little bit further, but obviously in this case, that's not probably something we're going to be able to do. Password and login. Let's go take a look real quick if it says anything else. Yeah, so user authenticated. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be saying anything other than the admin. So in this case, that's what it is. Okay, so there's other things that we can do to go even further. Okay, let's go back to our page over here. There's other things that we can do. So we have a version over here that we could take a look and just write up. Let's say, for example, we have a notepad. We could put that on a notepad as well to make it a little bit easier for us to track CACT, and then paste the version over here. So that's one thing. The other thing too is when we do an nmap scan, and that's like, I know I'm coming back and forth, right? And that's something you guys are gonna have to put that into your mind, is the back and forth on going from one tool to another. So now we were on the we were onto the terminal. We want to take a look at the web application with Firefox. Then we're going to come back over here and see if there's other ports potentially that could be open, right? So the nmap command for this is nmap-p-, right? And then we're going to put the MonitorsTwo.htb in here. Okay, so we're doing a basic nmap, but all the ports in this case. So this one here is going to query the 65,000 plus ports that are available there. Obviously, again, the one we did previously was the top 1,000 ports, which is by default. Most of the time, you're going to find your answers there, but once in a while, you may have some sort of surprises that's going to show you, that's going to be right in front of you. So keep thinking about it all the time. So we're still under the enumeration part. We're still trying to figure it out even more. We know we have CACT version 1.2.22, and then we can do, let's say, exploit-db over here and trying to find if there's anything. So it seems here there's like an exploit on this guy that could potentially work. Obviously, this one is not verified, so we don't know if it works 100%. We can take a look at the code and see what it does. Oh, we see it does a reverse shell over here, has some interesting thing. It's going to put also the x404 as a header. User agent. So basically builds up a, so we have the self URL here, which is the actual code that's going to be sending it. What else do we have that could be interesting part of this code? Yeah, so it seems that's probably querying the web page, right? Like if we go directly to this one, do we have something that could be is trusting for us. Is there anything that it's going to do? Maybe not, maybe yes. Who knows? We don't know. Okay, so that could be very interesting. So we're not authorized to do this. Does it mean something? Well, we don't know yet. That's something we're going to have to check out. Obviously, we have our web page. We don't have any more ports that are here. So that's limiting a little bit our stuff over here. But obviously, we see that we may have an exploit that could be very interesting. We just need to figure it out how these things are put in, right? Maybe there's also like others. Sometimes like a GitHub page could be very interesting to help us out. Authentication bypass. Sometimes you just have to go a little bit further. So CACT, so make sure the exported 4 values within the polar table. You may change the payload. So see that. So that's something. So that's one thing that's telling us the payload could be a little bit different. So we have to pay attention to that. Sometimes if we're trying to use a CACT and we're trying to use that same exploit onto a specific server, which is basically a different server than the Linux machine we're attacking, we may have to adjust that payload to adjust to that, right? For example, and I'm not saying for this is the exact thing, but if you're trying to use a payload that's meant for a 64-bit computer server and you use it on a 32-bit, it's not going to work, right? It's the same thing if you're trying to use a payload again on a Linux machine, right? Well, sorry, on a machine that has a payload for Linux, and then you use it on Windows. Windows won't understand exactly those commands. So that's something you're gonna have to adjust yourself on. Okay, so that's something that can be interesting to take a look at. Do we have anything else interesting in this case? Whoops, a little bit further down. This one, the code is a little bit fairly similar, but a little bit different at the same time. So we take a look, enter the IP address. Then we have a bash IP port. It puts the 127. So that's interesting. Vulnerability is here. And then we see the poll data, action, poll data, and then encode payload, ID host. So there's a bunch of stuff here that's it's probably going to work for us. And we could potentially make it work. Okay, so how about grep through the web root folder to find interesting stuff? I'm not sure if I understand what you mean by grep. I'm assuming you're talking about trying to use, let's say, Durbuster or Ghostbuster. Well, Ghostbuster, GoBuster. So Durbuster, that's another one. Yes, thank you very much. That's a very good suggestion here that we can give it a try and find out other information that could be very, very relevant to us. So Durbuster is more of an application. So by the way, that's I should have showed it here. Are you guys going to see it? There we go. So as you can see here, that's the comment I was actually referencing to, where I think that's what he meant more on trying to find out the information directly on the server. So we're going to take a look and we're going to find out who's in here. So we're going to do HTTP and then MonitorTwo.htb. Okay. And that's port 80 by default. That's what it is. But if you, in any case, need to change the port, you can do 8081, for example, and then that'd be using port 8081 instead of 80 by default. In this case, it doesn't matter. We can leave it like that. Then we have 10 threads. Okay. For me in general, I go 50, but then you have to monitor a little bit when you start getting at 50 threads, because the reason behind that is, well, again, it depends on your CPU capacity, right? I'm used to have like a 8 CPU dedicated directly to my VM. This one, I think it's 4 we may have over here. Does it say? So may not have a whole lot of power compared to some others resources. So yeah, we have 4 CPUs over here. Okay, so just keep that in mind that if you use this, it might not be as powerful as your actual machine. All right, so now we need to go and find also a what's called a word list. Okay, so USR var. Is it var? Hold on. SRC. No, share. There we go. When we don't. Is it var? Share SRC? I forgot about it. Where's my word list again? Oh, there we go. I click on the wrong one, I guess. We go a little bit further down. We should have a third buster word lists, but you see you have tons in here, right? So a lot of times people, what they might use under this folder, it's going to be a little bit further down. It could be the raw queue. You can have also like raw queue for passwords. You could have anything for like a bunch of different things. So, but in this case here, we're going to go for third buster. We have third B. I think it's third B. Is it third B? Third buster. There we go. We have a word list. So the one that I'm going to be using is this one. Okay, that's the one I normally use the most. That seems to be working for most things, but you have to keep in mind, it's not because you use this one that seems to be the most common one, at least like to my experience that works, that this one will work all the time. Sometimes like you're going to have some other name that's going to be out there that probably for another application and so on, you're not going to be able to find all those things. So in this case here, we are going to select this guy. Okay. And then after that, recursive. I don't like recursive. So I'm going to tell you exactly why recursive can be good, can be bad for you. Okay. Recursive is going to try to go through all the folders that it finds. If it finds 5 folders, it's going to go through all of them. But if you have, let's say, a 2 million, basically a 2 million dictionary lines, basically words that are in there, is going to have to do 2 millions times 5, right? So each one of them is going to have to run through 2 million. So if you're looking for fast results on the route, that's not going to be a good way to be able to do it. And most of the time, you're going to find exactly what you need without recursive right away. But if you're like out of ideas or you're guessing something could be very good for you, that could be a very good thing to actually do. Okay, so we're going to do a brute force on directories and files. The other thing too that we can figure it out. Right now we are over here. We're using PHP. Okay, but in the case of Windows machines, what extension would be like? How likely the extension PHP would be used? And then the second part of that question is which extension normally we could find on a Windows machine, like a web server that's hosted on the Windows machine. Do you guys know the extension of it? I'll let you answer it into the chat. But I'm going to keep going, and then once I see the answer, I'll point out directly. So, all right, so we go back over here. Yes, Mint, you got it. The first one, you're right on the money. Exactly. So if that would have been ASP, we would have come back here and do ASP. Okay, that's what we can do. If we know that right now we have PHP, we keep it PHP. If you here, we can do TXT. We could add another one too, which I don't know, could be HTML, for example. Okay, again, this is a word list. So if we use that word list, right? That's here. Maybe I should just show you real quick what that word list looks like. But if we do that word list, we're going to encounter the fact that we have to go through 3 times, right? Because they all have a different extension at that point, and it needs to try 3 of them. So it's going to take even more time to be able to do that, right? So you got to figure it out what's good for you and how can you leverage the whole thing over here. All right, sounds good. So now let's go back to, oh yeah, I wanted to show you the, what's it called? Forgot the name. Yeah, I wanted to show you that that actual log. There we go. The dictionary. So we're gonna do a word list and then LSLA. You're gonna see that they're all there, and we're gonna do just a, I don't know, like a head of the directory list. Is it going to work? Whoops, directory. I need to put that list. And then we have the 2.3. We're going to go for medium. Okay. So head basically, that's not good enough. Let's do a tail instead. That's probably going to be a little bit better. Instead of that. So head looks for the first 10 lines, and then tail is going to look for the lines at the bottom. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of different things that are going to be used. So like I said, if we're using PHP, TXT, and HTML, each one of them, like each one of these words needs to have .txt and then the second try .html, right? So even though we do 50 threads, we may have to go, like if we have a 2 million database, we're probably going to have to go through the whole thing. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. So let's give it a try and see how this one's going to go. There we go. So we're going to do a start. Whoops. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I forgot to take them off. So keep in mind, you're always going, not always, you're oftentimes going to make mistakes. So sometimes just double check your work to make sure that you're not having any issues. So in this case over here, you can see we're doing 1,656 requests per second, right? Because we have 50 threads. If I would have brought it down to, let's say 20 threads, which is here, and then change it, it goes down. And then we see that our requests are going down. So if we have a server that has issues being able to elaborate on this, or receive those requests, obviously I'm the only one right now on this server is dedicated to me, so I might be able to do more. But if you have a server that's finicky and have any issues, you may need to dial it down. So let's bring it back up to 50 in this case, so we can utilize as much as possible, and then you can see it ramping up. We have 10% of this done, and then we can take a look also at the trees over here, right? So we have a couple of things that has been identified by the actual server. The beauty of this one, of their Buster, again, I told you guys about GoBuster. I told you about, there's many others. We could have potentially used FUF as well, or WFuzz to be able to do the same thing, or at least something similar. But the thing is with this one that I like the most is we see that visually, right? So we can see the response code. We can sort them out if we wanted to. And then after that, we can right click and do open in browser, right? So there we go. So, this one, is it going to work? Open in browser. Oh, there we go. For some reason it went there. So it brought us here, right? So the about page brings us to the same thing. If we use, let's say, the help, we could also do that. Obviously, it seems to be all the same thing. So most likely the response size that are all here at 622 are probably all the same thing, right? Services, we got 302, probably not going to get anything out of that. Yeah, so we're getting redirected, which is the 302 response code. Do we have any other code that could be interesting? Settings. Okay, open in browser. Settings, still again the same thing. I mean, they're all 622, so do we have anything else that could be interesting in there? Probably not. But we can expand some of those over here and see if there's anything that comes out. So see, look, I did not even do recursive, but just because in the code, those pages were linked, they showed up afterwards, right? So we're able to see that the structure of the web page is all showed over here, right? So that's something that can be very interesting sometimes to take a look at. Obviously, we're not going to take a look at all of them because ultimately, you guys is going to be here for about like a couple of hours, and I don't think you want to be here for a few hours. But yeah, so basically in a nutshell, I'm going to tell you straight up, there's not much you're going to be able to find in these ones. But what Shahid, I think I got your name right, I hope. Please let me know if I was wrong. But what Shahid was saying there on trying to do this, that'd be the exact way to figure it out, because that's part of your enumeration process. If we're using, I don't know, if you guys have access to the, what's it called, the Discord server for the Hack the Box Ottawa meetup, you should have a section at one place where it says enumeration, and you're going to be able to find what's called auto recon. And auto recon, very, very powerful system where you're going to be able to just use, let's say, sudo auto recon and then the IP address, and we'll go through a bunch of different things. So if you were here last week, I think I talked about it. I'll talk about it real quick again this time around, but because I think it's so powerful, and also it's something I used during my OSCP exam, right? Because this one will basically build all your folder structure, put all the stuff that it finds there, will run a bunch of different commands all at once, right? So auto recon here is a multi-threaded network reconnaissance tool, which performs automated enumeration or services, right? And then here, other penetration environment, example, OSCP. So obviously Tiberius, if you guys don't know him, he's very known into the InfoSec community, especially on the pen testing side. Worked for a bunch of different companies. Now I think he's working for TCM Security, the cyber mentor. So if you guys know that the YouTuber that started his own company, well, that's exactly where he works now, and he's pumping out videos. So either way, so as you can see here, all the dependencies, well, I mean, the commands that are going to be run, we can see all of them that are going to be there, right? So that's something that could be very interesting. And again, you don't need to do anything; it just do it for you. The thing is that you have to do is just to go and revise those text file. The downside of using Pwnbox is if you install it and then you leave, you're going to lose all your progress, right? Because your machine is going to be reverted. So I would probably discourage you, unless you want to try to figure it out and just have fun and see how to install auto recon and how it works. You can do that there, and then there's no chances for you to screw up anything. But that's something I would discourage if you think you're going to be able to use it for a while on Pwnbox. However, on your own VM, obviously go ahead and install it. That's perfect, right? It should work for sure. All right, so okay. So now that we've looked at all of these, and we have a CACT 1.2. No, is it 1.2.22? I wrote it down over here onto my unsaved document. 1.2.22. There you go. All right, so we're gonna use which one did I use? I think I was using this one just a second ago, or at least I was showing you this one. And we have cact.py, and we have our code. So at this point on, the thing we're going to do is we're going to click on raw, right? We are going to select this whole page, and then go back to our terminal. I'm going to make a directory of MonitorsTwo directly in this location. Over here, I'm going to do a wget and enter the whole link of the actual exploit that we just saw. Okay, so what wget does, it will gather all the information from there, and because this is raw information, it's basically not going to change anything else, right? So it's not going to pull the whole HTML in place. So we do this, and then we can easily do a cat of this cact.py, right, and see that everything is here. Okay, so it's easy enough to be able to get everything done. Now here it doesn't say, but that should be potentially a Python 3 code. So we're gonna take a look. It says IP address, print app is vulnerable. Enter the target. Okay, so enter target. So that's how it wants us to enter it. So we're gonna do a Python 3 cact.py, and then we're gonna do a HTTP MonitorsTwo.htb. Okay, good. That's about it. Can we do something with it? Oh, is it asking us a little bit later on? HTTP MonitorsTwo.htb. Maybe that's what it wanted. Okay, so enter your IP address. I mean, that's a different code that I've used in the past, right? So we're discovering it at the same time. So my IP address is this guy here, right? So easy enough. We're gonna paste it there. Enter the part you want to listen on. I don't know if it's gonna do it for me. That's a good question. So let's give it a try for fun. And if it fails, it's probably because I need to have a listener. Delivery of payload. Okay, so that's what I think. All right, let's give it a try. If we review the code, that's probably something that's going to tell us. So we're going to do nc nvlp, right? VLP. So all that jazz all together. It's basically listening to a port specific port, which is the P, the L listening, the V is going to be verbose, and the N, there's no DNS search that's going to be done in this case. And then after that, we're going to do, NVLP port 4444. I think that's it. And then let's try again. So I guess in this case, I don't need this in there. We're going to do a copy. Enter. Then after that, we have this one, our IP address. Enter. And then port listening on, port 4444. Let's give it a try. Oh, there we go. So in this case here, what we just realized is we were able to deliver that payload, okay, and then get there. So there's something interesting too. Obviously, like we're now on the machine, but we have probably a little bit more to go. But there's something else I'm going to show you. So we're going to develop a little bit more. So I'm going to kill this one, right? So we are working on a machine. So for example, and that's a great thing and probably a great tip if you guys are doing pen testing or into an engagement, right? It'd be to get that application, that same version, install into your machine or like a VM machine and give it a try on a couple of things. So another thing that I want to show you real quick. So we're going to kill this this one, okay? I'm just going to restart my Nightcat listener, but I'm going to add a little mix here. So for example, we saw some of the code being generated, but we don't know 100%. Obviously, like if we are really good with Python, we're going to be able to figure that out. But in our case, what I want to do right now is to find exactly what's, oh, maybe not this one. I want to select which one it is again, because we're gonna have a lot of stuff over here. I guess I can just do a IP filter on this guy. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. IP address equal, and then we can say this is the MonitorTwo IP address that's gonna be there. Let me go get the IP address, and we're gonna be able to just like focus on that specific IP address over there. Okay, so we're not going to see anything else but that one. So if we do, let's say, a ping, and we go and ping this guy, for example, see, we see the actual ping that's happening in between the two. So that's all I wanted. I don't want anything else but this. Otherwise, you saw earlier, it just keeps scrolling down, and that's going to be a pain in the ass to review and go through the whole thing. So we're we're filtering directly on that specific IP address. Okay, good. So let's do a clear. We're starting from scratch, and we're going to go and repeat again the same thing. Okay, we have already our listener that's here. We are setting up all our stuff over here to make sure we can send our payload over there. So I guess I have to rewrite it. Oh, HTTP, and then we're going to do MonitorTwo and .htb. That should be good. MonitorTwo, enter. App is vulnerable. We're going to go with our IP. And then 4444. So we were good to go normally, technically speaking. Remote agent. Okay, so let's do again this, because I want just to show you what is happening. So press enter, and then we have a bunch of stuff. Okay, and we know in the background we got access over here. So let me just come back here, okay? And we are going to analyze a little bit the information that's being sent, okay? So we saw into the code. Do I still have that code? I think I do over here, okay? So we took a look at the information that's there, injected URL, right? Vulnerability, action, pull data, pull, all that stuff, all that jazz, right? So we see everything has been done. So then if we come back over here, we take a look, we have something that's very, very close. Like you remember I tried the remote_agent.php. Well, if we right click on this, right, obviously like we can try to expand and see exactly like the actual link and all that stuff. If we right click on it, we go to follow TCP stream, for example, now we can see it into our own page. We can see the whole code that has been sent. Okay, so that's one thing that can be done. And the thing is, what we can do as well with this is if we're trying to test and it doesn't work with that payload, we could just take this and either craft a curl command, right, to be able to send that. And the second thing that we could do as well is to use Burp Suite, right? That's another key factor that we could actually use. Is there any other application that you guys think of that I'm not naming right now at this point? If you guys remember, a few seconds. But in the meantime, as you guys are getting that information, or at least thinking about it, of other softwares we could use to be able to push this, I'm going to keep going. All right, so that's really interesting to be able to do that. Okay, so we have Alex that's saying Zap proxy. That's potential. I'm not too sure about this one, but could potentially be good. Obviously, we would have to take a look at that. Netcat. I'm tempted to say that it's not going to work unless we try. Well, maybe there's a way. Maybe there's a way that could work. I don't know if somebody here actually tried it with Nancy. That's a very good question. That's something probably I should take a look at. Possible a good suggestion here, but that one I'm not sure. I know we can send stuff through that, but can we send, let's say, post or get stuff through this? I don't think. I'm tempted to say that I don't think we can. Okay, good. So yeah, so that's very good. As you guys saw, we have a bunch of stuff that we can find from this, like a lot of information we can try to find from there. TCP dump, that's more to figure it out, how the payload has been sent. Alex and Yasmin, what they were saying is like, how can we send it to the actual web server? So it's not necessarily trying to gather. So TCP dump is almost the same thing as what Wireshark is. And I don't know how to say your name. 574R570RM. So there's probably a way to say it. I apologize if it's not exactly the way that should be said. Either way. So yeah, so that's what it is for this. I'm gonna keep going because I don't want to run too much out of time. But this is something that can be done. NICTO is more for a what's it called? A vulnerability assessment, technically speaking, right? So it will take a look for vulnerabilities here and there and do a little bit of information. And probably that's something we could do on the background as we're doing something here. NICTO, and I can't remember exactly what are the fields, but let's say just like HTTP. We'll see if it asks for more. It's been a little while that I've used this one. So MonitorTwo.htb. Okay, so host. Okay, so we need to put host there. Dash host. There we go. So we're gonna let this one go, and then that's a very good suggestion that we can run on the NICTO for sure. So let's take a look later on this. I'll just put it a little bit on the side so it's not too distracting, but at least we can see and can go back to it. Whoops, I should probably remove NICTO here. So, okay, read the traffic. So, but you were right. If it's to read the traffic, TCP dump, very good app to be able to use this. So it's not an issue at all. You would have been right for that specific question. Okay, so now we're here. We can go and navigate a little bit around. So that's a very weird name, right? That's not necessarily. Normally in Hack the Box, we have the actual machine name that's going to be there. In this case, we have a bunch of different stuff. So let's do LSLA. We find what we have here. User admin. Normally, there's not much into it. We can take a look at. We have a bunch of different files that can be here. HTML. Is there anything that could be interesting in here? We have the include thing. A lot of times under the include, we can have something in there, like a file. In this case, we have config. Config.php can be like very, very useful for a lot of people, right? Or at least a lot of web application that you're trying to figure it out what's on it, right? So let's do this. So we're looking at it right now. I'm not going to use nano, right? Quite sure some people here knows why. If I use nano, it just could go completely wrong. All right, so now here we have the information, like we have potentially a username, password, root. That could be interesting. Database. So there's a database, obviously, most likely because there is a password. Okay. So that's interesting. I'm going to have to accelerate a little bit because I want our good friend Steve to be able to talk his point as well. There's entry point over here, right? That can be very interesting in this case. And the thing is, entry point, what it does, it gives you a bunch, like the actual command to just get there, right? So obviously, if you didn't know, it would have been easy to do almost the same thing. So you do, let's say, a my SQL, and then username root, and then we could have done, let's say, -p, right? We know it's root, right? And then root. And this one says we cannot connect. It's probably a little bit more. It says cacti here. So maybe we need to put a little bit more stuff. But technically speaking, most of the MySQL part you're going to do as you're moving along, that's going to be this. So if we do just this, like basically up to here would be fine. But right now it's going to log us into it and get there and show us all the tables, right? So if I do the same thing here, I do show tables. Okay, I can do that. And then I'm going to get the same result. Whoops, show tables. Show. Oh, okay. Yeah, never. I need to. Can I just do this instead? Is it going to log me in? Seems like it probably crashed. All right, let's try again. That's the beauty sometimes of going back and forth with these things. Okay, no, not that's. Where is it at? Yeah, lower this down. We're gonna go back to our pair terminal. I guess I'm gonna have to start a new one on the side here, so we can just do the hack and listening to Netcat. Okay, so city monitors 2, and then we have Python 3, cacti.py, http, and monitors 2.htb, 10.10.14.8, and then 4444. Okay, so now if we go back a little bit towards the beginning, right, we're going to be able to most likely get it done again. CD, we do a cat on entry point. I should probably LSLA, entry point, cat. Let's take a look. We have that. Let's just try this. Show tables. Oh, no, that, yeah. That's interesting. Sometimes we have to play a little bit around to make it work. So, show databases. Does it seems to want to work properly this time around? paste. Not sure why it's not working out the way it should. Let me real quick. Like we have the tables that we could just do the commands and just go from there. It's probably going to be the safest way to do it this time around. Okay, so apologize for that. We have MonitorsTwo.htb. We have we have 10.10.14.8. I think somebody's writing. Oh, okay. I guess we can use that afterwards. So, okay. LSLA. Somebody suggested to try something a little bit different. For whatever reason, this time around does not work, but this time we're going to do that. So cat. So then what I was suggested to do, to give it a try, this, and then use cacti in there. And it seems to have an issue right now. So for whatever reason, maybe the database has a problem, and that will happen. So don't be too offended about these things. However, we see that there's other information. Or use. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the directly with the E-E. So it should probably be a little bit fine at this point. Oh yeah, forgot that. But technically speaking, I know somebody's talking to me in private. Technically speaking, the way that it was designed, normally you should have the MySQL directly, and then you should be able to interact with the database. So MonitorTwo.htb. So these things will happen and you will struggle. That's normal. And hack the box, technically speaking, it's not meant to be easy all the time, right? So it will happen. So if you do that, now we have show tables, right? We can see what's up there. Yeah, because normally host is DB, user root. Yeah, I'll give it a try one last time. So it does not want to work for whatever reason. Yeah, so it seems that it's kind of like, oh, it worked in the background afterwards. So I think what it's doing, yeah, that's probably what it's doing. It's probably just like accumulating those things all together and then sending it over there. But technically speaking, if we just do this, right, and most of them, it should basically give us and let us enter in, right? So if I do, let's say, show tables, and then it should work. So no database selected. So now it says no database selected. Oops, my bad. Now if I do use cacti, and then I do show tables, whoops, I need this, and I do exit. See, that's what's going on, right? It seems that it's just waiting or expecting something to be happening there. And that's the thing. I'm not sure why it does that, to be honest, because technically speaking, it should just like get us there. So obviously we have to deal with it. One thing we could have done basically is trying to upgrade our thing. Do we have Python? Maybe that's the reason why. Which Python? 3. We have Python 3. Python 3. It's C. Is it C? I forgot. Give me a second. I think it's C. Import pty dot spawn, and then we're gonna put our bin bash over here. Bin bash. Bin bash does not work. Maybe, oh, it doesn't have it either. Python 3. Oh, okay, that's probably the C. Give me a second. For what? I forgot the actual command of what needs to be done on this guy. So I think we just need to put that there. Give me a second. And there, if we go onto the, I forgot the name of it, the Discord channel, right? Discord server. We have again a place where I put all, well, not all, but I'm starting to put all the commands, and we have Linux related stuff. And that was, yeah, that was right. It's just the thing was changed. So yeah, because I have pretty much everything that you need to do, and that's basically copy and paste from there. So if I do that, it says bin bash not found. But if I do lsla bin bash, it's there. We could use another one too. That's another thing that's possible. Maybe that's the reason why it's not working, right? And we don't have our bash elevated enough to be able to make it work. So one thing that we could do is maybe our payload is not exactly right to be able to get that, right? Because I told you earlier, I'm using currently a different exploit than the one I've used in the past. So if I'm using a different exploit and that's the issue, that could be the reason behind that. Let me just take a look here if I can copy and then paste it here, the exploit that I've actually used, which is this one. Is it the same thing? Yeah, it's a little bit different. Yeah, it's a little bit different. As you can see, things are different from one place to another. I want to show you the difference. And what's the payload on this guy? Do we have the payload? I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. So we have a bash I. Was it the same thing with the other one? Oh. Was it a bash I? Yeah, it's a bash I, TCP address port, bash C, bash I. Oh, it's the same thing. So maybe just the way it's being done, there's maybe a little of an issue that's happening. Yeah, not much you can do sometimes about it, unfortunately. So either way, let's move on from there, because we have to move. So LSLA, we have the entry point. And we have show tables like we just saw earlier. Copy and then just paste this. We have show tables. The user auth is one that could be very interesting for us, okay, in this case. So the next thing that we could do is refine our search a little bit. And now we're going to do the user auths in this case. If you let me just take a look real quick, just to make sure that's I do it properly. So we can do a select, for example, star from user auth, and then just close this, and let's see if we, see. So now we're querying the database, but just like one at a time pretty much. So now we're seeing like a bunch of information. It seems that we have admin, password, and a hash, which seems to be interesting. We have Marcus, we have guest. So to be able to simplify this, what we can do is to select the actual column, right? So instead of selecting stars like we just did, right, we can try to select just the column that we need in this case. So let's do this V and select. Here we have username, we have password. That can be interesting. Do we have anything else that could be very interesting? Obviously, maybe we have the emails that could be potentially good. But if we start with this, and then from user auth, and then we close this, press enter. Now we have our list. So now we know that we have Marcus, guest, and admin, and we have the credentials of these guys. Okay. One of the things that we can do is, I just want to get it a little bit smaller. We can go back and create our all. Well, I already have one on the side there. Yeah, I should probably use that one. We have this one. Okay. We're already in MonitorTwo. What we can do is echo and then a tick, paste it there. And then we have another tick and we move it directly to hash.txt. Okay. And then there's multiple things that we can do. If we want to know hash ID, right, we can do that. Maybe hash ID, and then this says unknown hash. We have hash identifier, and we can do maybe this. It's not found. Did I copy the whole thing correctly? I think so. Yeah. What about this? Those applications sometimes work, sometimes doesn't work. So you have to be mindful of this. So it seems that these ones don't want to work in this case. We could go also try to find out online. But in our case, like we, this case here, and you guys already remember from what we've done in the past, we already used John to be able to do this, right? So if we have the hash in there, and then we take the word list, like the word list I was telling you earlier, rock you. Whoops, it did not copy. Give me a second. And we're going to paste this and press enter. Okay, so now in this case, we can just wait there and let it go. I just saw you, Tim. Try name that hash. Oh, name that hash. Is that a an application? I'm just gonna put it here. So that's another one I didn't hear. So we can go online easily and figure it out. Maybe some name that hash. Is that name that hash? Oh, that's an application to download. Or hash identifier. Okay, so similar. Okay. All right, let's give it. Wow. So see, this one you found it. Funky monkey. So it seems to be the password that we have for Marcus. CrackStation. CrackStation is a very good one. That's I completely agree with Yasmin here. I'll show you here. That's on the internet. I'm going to take a look at Tim real quick to make sure that name that hash. I never heard of it. Name that hash. Is that something? Oh, I guess we just need to download it. Yeah, I think we need to download it to that tool probably. Is it like a apt search name that hash? No. Yeah, about name that hash, but I think we need to. Oh, there's dashes, so that could be the reason. Name dash that hash. Because this one here says Kali Linux. Does it say here? Usage, name that hash. Oh, that's Kali, but we have Parrot. So it could be a different database, right? It's feasible to install those applications, but it could potentially be a little bit different. Oh, NTH, maybe NTH. Oh, there you go. I think we found it. It's NTH, the actual thing. So text, NTH, and then this. NTH, and then just put real quick this one. Close this up. Oh, there you go. So name that hash would have been a better tool in this case to be able to use it. As you can see here, we have the bcrypt. And if we take a look here in the back, not this guy, let's minimize this. If we take a look over here, we had the hash and it says bcrypt, right? So name that hash would have been a good thing. On CrackStation, what Yasmin was talking about is CrackStation. You take that hash, you put it there, and then it will basically take a look at the data, like its own database, and tell you if it's a match or not. If it's a match, it will tell you exactly the password it is, right? So now we have Marcus and we have Funky Monkey as a password. Okay, so here, next step, most of the time we're going to do is Marcus at SSH, at MonitorTwo.htb. Yes, and then Funky Monkey. So hopefully I write it right. Okay, good. So one thing to keep in mind of what just happened there. Okay, so for those folks that are not necessarily sure, we can see here we have MonitorTwo and we have this. Okay, so if we take a look at the root file directly, or the root folder, we're going to see we have a Docker environment, right? So we are into a place where it's separated, technically speaking, it's separated from the actual host, not 100% because the same resources are being used with that Docker, but it's like, it feels like a different environment. So we have the same folder structure, or pretty much we can have a specific tool in there and so on, right? But technically speaking, we are not directly inside the actual machine. So if we're looking for, let's say, root in this case, well, we see root is there, but if we do, let's say, cd home, okay, we have nothing in here. On the other side though, if we do home and then we do lsla, now we have Marcus. So you can see right now we have two different things like all together, and we need to understand that a Docker, we're probably going to try to figure out how to get somewhere else. So our kind of like the attack that we've done, or at least somewhat of an attack or a misconfiguration or whatever we can take a look at, is we use an exploit within CACT, and then after that we use that misconfiguration where we were able to go into the database because the clear text password, and then crack that specific password, like the hash, into a password, and we knew already what was the username. So in this case, this is how we were able to get in. So there's a little hiccup here and there that happened, but obviously this is completely normal. And to be honest, this is fast compared to what most people are going to be able to do, unless you're like a seasoned pen tester and so on. To be able to get up to this point, it might take you a little while. Right, so right now I'm going to do a basically cd Marcus lsla and do a cat user. We'll take a look. I can see the user. There's no reason why you should take note of this code and put it down, right? They're dynamic, so this code won't work for you. Perfect. Sounds good. So lots of stuff discussed here. I think I'd like to thank you pretty much everyone. So I'll get CrackStation done, like ready to go, and then I'll show up whenever we have our good friend Steve. What's going to be done with is blue team stuff, shenanigans. So Steve, all right, that was fun, huh? How do you like the struggle?
I like to see it as a blue team guy, you know. You like red team struggle for once.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean it's going to be always like that. But again, I'm going to say it like probably through other events. If you're not struggling at one point, like at least at the beginning, that's going to be an issue. As you get more specialize into certain like applications, and then you see specific things, you're going to be able to react accordingly. And obviously the blue side don't get to see this when the red team is practicing, but obviously this is something that's normal for the red side. Blue team, well, I mean, you're not allowed to be wrong. You have to be right all the time. So I'm quite sure you're going to be right on your explanation, and I will let you keep going at it. So as soon as Steve is done, we're going to keep going from user and then move a little bit further. So I'll see you in a few minutes.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So I just got a few slides put together here because I don't have the defense box. So basically, if you were here last month, this is pretty similar. Using Nmap to provide, details about the services, run those default scripts, identify that Cacti is running on Nginx, test out the app, see what it does. In this case, we browse to the IP address, see it's Cacti, see the version of it, and then understand that it's vulnerable and find a ton of exploits and go to town. Gain a foothold by exploiting Cacti and PHP. That was pretty cool to watch, see that reverse shell come up, and then understand, okay, yeah, it definitely looks like we're in a Docker container. What does the entry point look like? Okay, there's actually some commands in here we can run to find more data. And that data then leads us to compromising the box or compromising a user on the box. So just got a few countermeasures here. Really, it's nice to say don't let the port scan happen, or at the very least, try and detect it. Have some sort of alerting. And then, if you're running an IPS or next-gen firewall, they can detect and or block. There are some problems with these statements. Don't let the port scan happen, or, my IPS should be able to block that. Can anyone provide any sort of insight as to why that is so much harder than it looks in 3 lines on a slide? Okay, so I'll just kind of keep moving forward because I know that we're coming up on time, but one of the big issues with IPS, next-gen firewall appliances, saying, hey, I'm not going to let a port scan happen. Well, much of the time, whatever you're using for intrusion prevention or intrusion detection, it's sending you a ton of alerts. Unless you've got a dedicated detection engineering team, you're probably going to have a lot of false positives, and you don't want any false negatives. So you don't want to go so far as to tune your IPS to the point where you're missing stuff. So, while it's easy to say, just don't let the port scan happen, the better option is, detect an alert when you see something and tune your systems to the point where you're not just overloaded with a lot of false positives. You want to be able to understand that when you see something, it's for a reason. I showed this one last month as well. We discovered an Nginx version, blah, blah, blah. In this case, it doesn't really apply unless we're actually going after Nginx. Like you can see down here, Nginx 1.14.2 versus once you configure Nginx to turn off server tokens, you just see Nginx. Yes, Tim, that's awesome because you still need to provide a service to your customer. You can't do a whole lot of blocking and dropping because at some point someone's going to be like, hey, why isn't this service working? And the answer is always blame the IPS or blame the security team. So you still have to be able to monitor, to assess, but not necessarily block. Now, another question about server tokens. So while it's a great practice, why doesn't it help us in this situation? What did we find that still told us, okay, Cacti is running? And what could we have found even without knowing that Cacti was running in Nmap? So essentially, the HTTP title was log into Cacti, right? But also, if you see port 80 is open, the first thing you're going to do is browse just to see what it actually is hosting. So we would have found Cacti either way. But I still wanted to keep this in as kind of a best practice to make sure that, if your Nginx version is maybe a little bit behind, no one needs to know that. So a little bit of security by obscurity, but obviously patching your stuff is a much better option. So with the foothold, so I think this will probably always be my top point: practice vulnerability and exposure management. So patch your stuff. Cacti was out of date. Docker has some configuration issues. So we haven't really gotten here yet, but one of the things we can do is something like you can drop capabilities from Docker. So you could say drop all capabilities so that root in Docker is still pretty much, only good for what you need it for. Again, web app firewall. So if someone is putting a wonky URI into a request to my app, I want to know. So if you're putting in an IP address or encoding to my Cacti server, then I want to know, and preferably I want to block that. Detection. So on the other side of things, when your web server is going outbound on port 4444, that's weird, right? Your web server shouldn't be originating connectivity out. And again, some of this stuff is reiteration, but ensure that your web server logs are made useful. So with that, are there any other countermeasures or any other protective measures that you can think of that maybe could help us, avoid such issues as, pulling usernames out of a MySQL database and then using that to gain access to the system? So I will swing ahead here. So one of the things we found when JF got access to the box, he was in as www data, which is the web server default account. He was able to check config files, then check the database, found some other credentials, was able to SSH into the box, and then pivot, to Marcus, right? So if you're not authenticating using LDAP or something where you can put in specific rules, you can use PAM in Linux. So pluggable authentication modules. The PW quality, it gives you the ability to set password rules. So you must have X number of uppercase, lowercase numbers or symbols. You can even compare it with cracklib to say, okay, this is a crackable password, so I'm not going to let you use it. How many times you've reused, like this is, no password reuse. So you can't just use X number of letters from your same password, from your previous password. It's very, very configurable, very granular, that allows you to really strengthen your passwords if all you have is local auth. They are, in practice, you might have this in Active Directory or something like that, and use LDAP from Linux. But if you're doing everything locally, then PAM and PW quality is a really good way to go. Updating Docker and Moby. So we'll probably have to talk about that one a little bit later. So I think that hasn't happened yet. And then essentially stop password reuse. So the fact that was a password in MySQL, it shouldn't have been a password for local auth, but if it is, leverage PAM. And I put in a link from Tenable here that has a lot of good options you can use within the PW quality file. So that's pretty much my piece. Does anyone have anything to add or any questions about how we might prevent this type of attack from happening? I'll just give it a couple more seconds if there are any questions or comments.
Yeah, awesome. I don't see anybody in Discord asking questions right now.
Beauty.
But
okay, do you have anything to add, JF?
I mean, it's extremely hard to be able to do the blue team side. I know someone that's did red team all her life, and when she started getting into the blue team side, she was like, why does it need to be that complicated? I'm like, well, because there's so many different structure into an organization. So if you talk about, like, say you have an organization of like 1,000 people in there, not necessarily like all 1,000 people will have their different projects, but you may have a couple of projects, and then you may have eventually like shadow IT, you may have like anything else that will be added along the line. You'll be like, what the hell, right? What should I do with this? Like, how am I going to be able to deal with it? And then you're like, okay, so we're only 2 people to be able to serve for this specific technology, and now you just added another one on top of it, and we're already having issues with the back end of the specific application, and then it's vulnerable. But now you want me to work on this one, right? Yeah. So there's lots of that's going to be happening. So whatever.
You want me to do updates?
Say again?
You want me to do updates? That could break my application.
Yeah, exactly. That's another good point. Like, a lot of times you're supposed to have a dev environment, like a development environment, then a test environment, then a production environment. I can tell you, normally if you go directly to production and you have people behind you, like a CISO or something like that, he might not like you at all, right? Normally you're supposed to test your stuff before, but in certain organizations, they're not able to maintain because the cost of the infrastructure, the maintaining everything, maintaining basically 2 of the same or almost the same in there can be very costly. So exactly. Yeah, so doing an update might break, I don't know, like your logs. So if you're trying to parse your logs to be able to get them to your SIEM, it might not work, right? Or it might have issues. And then you're like, well, why my logs are not being parsed the right way? And then it doesn't work. And then the SOC analyst is calling you. You're like, I mean, like, I could beep for a while at this point, like beep, say all kinds of swear word, right? Because they want their stuff right now. It was working yesterday, but then somebody else did an update, and then they think you're responsible for that. So it all depends on how things are. But I would say that extremely hard to be able to do any of that. At least that's my comment. But I think you're nailing a couple of key parts. And a lot of it, it's about changing the culture of the organization and try to help them out. So repeating yourself many times as a security professional might be one of the key things you're going to have to do all the time.
Yeah, it just sharpens the message anyway, right? Like, you just say, you have to patch your applications. Okay, you have to patch your applications because, okay, see what you did this time? If you had patched your applications, then this wouldn't have happened. So there's a lot of you kind of have to iterate. You just learn as you go, and you iterate and say, hey, this is what I think we need to do at this point because of these threats. And then you just kind of figure out, okay, so if I update Docker or if I update my application, Python 3.19 doesn't support this library, so we have to go back to 3.17. Oh, is that a vulnerability there? Okay, so now we're, it's just a loop, right? And it's one of those things you have to just start managing. And then, okay, if you have to use vulnerable software, what are you putting in front of that software to make sure that the requests don't hit that server and trigger that vulnerability? Excuse me, that vulnerability. So there's so many. Like, that's why it's layered defense, right? Because if your application isn't secure because of XYZ business problems, then what are you going to put in front of it to make sure that no one can access it except for those who have to, and they can only access it the way they're supposed to? So there's a lot of ways to explain the countermeasures, but it's even 2 hours is not enough time to go through all of that. So I think with that, I'll let you get back to finishing this box off. And
we got a comment real quick.
Oh, yep.
Right. I'll just put it up there. Right. So we can remove the banner grab from the logging panel to expose the version info and make it a bit more hard for the attacker to figure out which exploit will work.
Yeah. The The only downside to that is the Python script that you used. It didn't really care about the version number. It would still tell us. But if it's low-hanging fruit that you're looking for, and you go to the login page and you don't see that version, you're like, okay, who's next? So
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. If you don't see the version anywhere, it might be harder for you to figure that out. So they might just throw random exploits against the machine. And if your SIEM is able to collect the logs and you have rules in place and so on, you might be able to see that people are trying to do something they're not supposed to do.
Well,
So
that's
a good point.
Right? Like if you hide yourself a little bit, people have to work harder to understand. Like the attackers have to work harder to understand what you're using. Well, that's more events that you can hopefully catch them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
spot on.
All right, great talk. I think that's my turn. I'm gonna head back into this on the front stage.
Take it away.
Yeah, and I'll see you later.
You bet.
All right, so we got two things that we need to take a look at. We had Yasmin that was talking about CrackStation, which is a great place to be able to get your passwords, right? So basically a machine is in the background, so already trying to crack tons and tons of passwords and so on. In this case, as you can see here, I already tried it before we go in there. And that's the thing, right? So it did not work and it's not even there. So unfortunately, it's not going to work for this case in here. Maybe there's another thing I could have done. I tried to look for a bcrypt thing. I was like, that doesn't work. So unfortunately, that wouldn't be an actual really like good options to be able to go a little bit further. But Yasmin, like I'm going to put your comment again over here. So if you're looking for CrackStation, you just type in CrackStation online and like on Google, and then you're going to be able to get access to that. You put your password in, we'll try to figure it out. And that's a very good place to go if you're not able to find out more information just yet. All right, so we got the second item that Anton asked me to review. Obviously, this is something that we talked about, was not necessarily good for what we wanted to achieve, but for the case, well, for our case at this point, the tools that we're going to be able to take a look at can be very important and probably can give us some information on certain things, right? So now we can go a little bit further and try and take a look at some of the stuff. So we see the same information that we had onto our nmap. What's interesting here, we can see PHP version. So one case, like PHP version was something that I was able to exploit into one of the machines previously into Hack the Box. Basically, there was a backdoor that was that a developer forgot, left it there, and then that specific version was vulnerable. So that could have been a good indicator, right? So again, to the point, I apologize, I don't know how to say your name, 574, that's how I'm going to call you. So to the point of 574, it's basically, yes, there's a version that we're able to establish, and then that could be another avenue I'm going to take a look at, right? So maybe, again, like I did before, I'm going to do PHP 7.4.33, and then I'm going to figure it out if there's an exploit, right? Maybe exploit DB has something or whatnot. Then we can keep going a little bit further down, install file found. So that can be maybe interesting to take a look at. But there's not much. Try to take a look for backdoor file manager, what's found. But is it really vulnerable to that? I don't know. Like maybe we can take a look if there is actually WP content, because that could be a false positive for this case, right? So we're still in here. We're going to go back in var. www city HTML LSLA, and then now we're going to take a look. Oh, do we have what's it called again? WP content. So LSLA grep WP. Do we have a couple WP? So see, there's like not even WP content. So I'm not even sure. That's probably just a false positive from the server that was returned. There's maybe a way to try to tweak a little bit more this case, but in this case right now, it seems to be more of a false positive to have a backdoor with this NIC to update. No, I don't want the NIC to update. Yeah, so WordPress probably doesn't work. That's probably not a thing either. I mean, like we have just a few directories. We could do, let's say, ls LA capital R. So basically LA will give us a lot more information onto the access of each of the files / folders, right? And it's going to be easier for us to decipher what's good and what's not. And also we'll show also the hidden files. So if you only do ls, you're missing all that information. If you do the capital R at the end, it will go and do an ls and then recursively within all the folders. So that happens sometimes in the past that you have to do cd ... and you keep going back and forth. That's annoying, right? So that's exactly what you can do here. You can just do that, and then you see here. So the / services is one that maybe we could have forgotten, right? That could have something interesting there. We can go take a look. Is here, that's / script .access resources SMP query. So there's a bunch of stuff like that that we can do for sure. So do I have my bottle of water? 1 second. So that's a good way that we could go through to find the important information that could be really relevant for us. There's also a grep-r that we could do as well if we're looking for anything in all the files to find for like passwords, like the actual line password. Now we have lots of return. Obviously, there's like a bunch of stuff, but any file that has password in it, like as you can see here, it says on this on the left side, right? We see password is in there. So that would have been another way potentially to do that. If we want to, let's say, do a grep capital R and then this password equal, right? That might be a little bit more appropriate for this case. So now we see we have a couple less involvement over here. Is there something? Username, database, status. Well, it tells us pretty much a little bit how it works, but not necessarily how that thing is, right? Because if you remember, we saw password like when we were into include, and then I thought it was include there. Include, or maybe I wrote it wrong. There you go. Then we have cat config.php. Go a little bit higher. So how was it written? So see, it's a little bit different. There was a space in between. So I mean, it doesn't mean it's gonna be good, it's gonna be bad, but that's one thing. I said, and just to come back also here, if let's say I would have done grep -r password, okay, that's one thing. The thing is, a word that looks like password, it's different because it's case sensitive, right? So the thing that we would have to do is like I and then R, capital R, and then we do password. The I basically says I don't care about case sensitive, I'm going to look for both, right? Doesn't matter in this case. So that's maybe one thing to keep in mind. So if we do password W R D space equal and then do this, let's see if we're going to be able to find it. We able to find include. Oh well, see, we have the password over here. So it seems that it's pretty much working our stuff that we want to do. Like for capital W or lowercase w, doesn't matter in this case, everything works, right? So either way, it's just to give you a little bit of example that what you can do. I was thinking about that and I thought it'd be good to show it. But obviously, as you saw, Anton, there's not much more that we're getting really much from this. Obviously, maybe there's other options that we could have used. We could have dig a little bit deeper into Nikto, but Nikto is basically a free version of a vulnerability assessment. So it's free. They're trying to do their best to be able to get that done. So obviously we could potentially try to do an update, right? And see if there is more information into it. But in this case, right now, right off the bat, from what I got, I don't. I'm not getting exactly what I would like, unless there would be a vulnerability that's already within Nikto. Two other services that are very much the same, or three. We have OpenVAS, right, which is a little bit better. Well, a lot better than Nikto for vulnerability assessment. It's open source, I believe. We have also Rapid7 with Nexpose, and we also have Tenable, right? Tenable Nessus. There we go. So all those three could have been the equivalency of Necto, but on a higher level for an organization. Well, sorry, maybe not open VALs, but the other two, Nessus and Nexpose would have been two vulnerability assessment that we can use in this case. All right, so good. So much informative. Well, you're welcome, Abhishek. I hope that you enjoy. Feel free to subscribe to this channel. Join us on our Discord channel as well, or Discord server, I should say. And then we're trying to do that every month. And if we can, we're trying to maybe do a little bit more if we can. We're approaching a purple perspective on the side of training. So blue side and red team side. All right, so let's move on. Right now we have this. Okay, so maybe not this one specifically. Let's move on to where was my other terminal that we were logged in? Marcus. Okay, I got Marcus. So we're gonna get this one down. I'm gonna take this one out. I don't think I need it. And then remove the distraction of this guy. Okay, cleaning up our stuff a little bit so you guys are not too confused in here as I'm trying to move along. Okay, so I logged in earlier. Did you guys find what was in there, right? There was something that was obvious as soon as I logged on that was present and very interesting that we probably skipped on purpose. At least I skipped it on purpose. And we can see it now from our panel. You're welcome, Shahid. It's a pleasure to be able to help you guys out. And there's other options we're looking for. And if you have any, like if you guys have any suggestions at any point in time that you'd like us to be able to cover, not necessarily just on a standpoint of knowledge about technology and so on. If it's just like career advice or something like that, we can also think about some sessions. We have some friends that could potentially come on online, and then we can have a discussion with you. So I'm saying you, like you as anybody that joins the those classes, right? So that's a possibility too. So I didn't see anybody writing down. It seems that we don't know. So I'll just, I know I'm delayed, but here you have mail, right? So that's basically the missing piece that we didn't discuss about as soon as we logged on. So obviously those messages that we see as soon as we log on could be very informative. So we have the information about the Ubuntu 20.04.6. LTS, we have Linux 5.4. So we have a bunch of information here that could be relevant eventually. Is it for a kernel exploit? Potentially, we don't know yet. Okay, so we have to check out, and then we have a basically information about the usage of the memory, swap usage, the IP address of the machine. That's the Docker 0 IP address, right? So we see that there. We have a dead beef over here. That's that beef. That's basically IPv6, and the same thing. If I think okay, so I hope I'm not wrong. You guys might not like that. Either way, that specific IP address, IPv6 address, is the same thing as the 127.0.0.1. So loopback or the local host IP address that we can talk about, right? So there's nothing special. This is normal, but they made fun with IPv6, I assume, and then they decided to call it dead beef initially. As far as I can recall my what I read about it. So, okay, so the location where we're gonna go here, it's in VAR, and then we have, yeah, I think it's Mel. There we go. And then LSLA, we see Marcus. Now we're gonna do a cat on Marcus and see what it says. Okay. We have a couple things that can be very interesting to read. So dear all, and that's coming from the administrator. So we would like to bring to your attention 3 vulnerabilities that has been recently discovered and should be addressed as soon as possible. So this first vulnerability is looking for version 5.11.14 or later to address this vulnerability, right? So that could be something. So sorry. So this vulnerability affect the Linux kernel version before this, and it's related to Calypso. So that could be interesting. Cross-site scripting. So this one we could potentially take a look at it, because obviously when we look over here, where it is, so we have Linux 5.4, right? That could be potentially good. Is there a command, like the audience, do you guys know a command that would have given us also that same type of information on what's the version of our Linux, or the Linux kernel, right? The command in the chat. I'm gonna keep going. So we got the cross-site scripting over here, right? Vulnerability effect CACT 1.2.13. Okay, and occurs due to improper escaping of error messages. Well, I mean, like cross-site scripting is probably not going to help us, because we are able to access the information and go even further, right? So pretty much have everything we need. Vulnerability effect Moby, an open source project, Docker. So the version. Okay, so in this case here, the one that seems to be the most prominent to be an issue is our actual Docker, right? So one thing we can do is Docker -- version. And then now we see here, end user should be able to update. So Docker version, we have that. So the bug has been fixed. So it seems to have been fixed at 20.10.9. So if we have 20.10.5, it seems that it's not fixed in this case, in our case, right? So if we need to find out in actual exploit and go a little bit further, we're going to need to find information about what could be the case, right? And an open source project created by Docker for software containerizer. Attackers could exploit this vulnerability by traversing directories content and executing programs on the data directory without insufficiently restricted permission, right? The bug has been fixed in Moby Docker engine. There you go. So the way that it seems is like we're going to be able to access some of the files that are probably in there, right? Into the Docker. So we have two things. We have our Docker. Is it still this? Yeah, it's still here. So we have our Docker that's here. Okay, that has like, I'm not going to do it clear because just in case that they screwed up the whole page. But what we're going to need to do, according to this, right, is we're going to be able to go and utilize potentially a file that's within Docker, right, and then utilize it from our machine. Okay, so basically what needs to happen, and that's the same thing or fairly similar to what we've done in last month presentation, right? So we're going to put this here. So it's a command set. It's fine. From the root, all the permission that we have, I don't think there's a slash normally. I might have to take it off. I'll give it a try, but I don't think there's a slash normally. We'll see. Oh no, it worked. Okay, good. So I know, like, for a lot of people, if you're not used to see what's going on over here, so it might be hard to figure it out if, okay, so is this one supposed to be there, right? Is G password, is bin password, all these ones, are they supposed to be in place with a sticky bit? Because basically for what it's looking for is, like, let's say we do LSLA and then space, paste this one, we're going to see we have our sticky bits, right? So basically whenever we start doing this specific or run this specific application, right, or binary, I should say, we are basically going to be the owner of this file. So in this case, it's root. Okay, so if we basically use it like this, it's just not going to work, right? So there is a place, if we come here, which is GTFO bins. Okay, press enter, we go there, and the one we're looking for, it's basically cap sh, right? So we do a Control F, cap sh. So now we go here. We see cap sh, we scroll down a little bit, and then we see the same thing. So basically what we can do is utilize this to our advantage, okay? Oh, let's take the whole thing. Control C. Let's see if it's going to work. Oh, there we go. So now you can see I'm root in this case. The thing is, I'm not necessarily I don't have like a full shell in this case, but technically speaking, if I go to where I'm at, okay, so let's go at here, LSLA. Now I can see like the files of root. I know I'm in root in this case, right? PWD is basically to know the folder where you're at. So we have a couple files, but as you can see, we're still under the same host name, right? Our Docker, and it doesn't work exactly the way we would like. Okay, so now we're root, but we're not technically root 100%. So the next thing that we're going to have to do is basically we're going to do a CP of bin bash, okay? And we're going to bring it over here. Is it going to work? LSLA. Whoops. Oh, I gotta do that there. So we have bash over here. That's owned by root, okay? And then the next thing that we could do is a chmod. It's what's it called? U plus S. And then after that, we want bash, okay? So now you see we did put the sticky bit. If we go back a little bit before, there was only executable. Now we put the sticky bit under bash, okay? The thing is, and that's what I was telling you earlier, is if we are, I mean, like, let's say I don't exactly know where it's at. I could do, let's say, a mount. Is it mount? Yeah, so it's a lot of gibberish here, but I could try to find them out there. There is also something else that I can try to take a look at. What's the command again? I forgot. I forgot. But you can actually find which one is which into those mount. As I can see, like there's one like var docker. We could also do, let's say, a find. We know find slash name entry point .sh. I think that's the one we had earlier, and to dev null. Okay, so the to dev null is like the to, which is error, are going to go dev null, so it's not going to show up. That's the reason why I'm doing this. So if you guys are wondering exactly why I put that all the time, or at least quite often, it's because I don't want to see all the errors, because they can be like very annoying to see the whole thing all together. So entry point.sh, so that should be good. So this one here didn't find it. Okay, so that's not an issue at all. In this case, we could take a look here. Mounts. It could be the other one, diff, maybe. Let's see this one. Upper directory. Whoops. Oh, you need to cd. Is it the right place? Let's take a look. All right, so let's take a look and see if it works. Dash -p. Oh, there you go. So I guess I was in the right place. Okay, so as you can see here, we were able to put the file, like the bash, we were able to put it into this location where we have access to it, right? So since we have a sticky bit, it says root, and that's inside the actual Docker that there is in there, we are able to traverse and go there and be actual root. The thing is, like, it says root on the EUID. We can go to, well, let's say hostname, for example. We're MonitorTwo. We can go to root, LSLA, and then maybe that's somewhat of an issue. Hold on. Python 3 ty slash, oh, not slash, pty dot spawn. bin, whoops, bash. Whoops. No, did I do it right? I did it wrong. It needs to be double quote over here. Otherwise, you cannot have like a single quote here and a single quote here. It's not going to work at that point. So two double quote. Sorry, one single quote and then one double quote after that inside. Otherwise, you're going to have an issue. Bash and this, that. Let's give it a try. So it doesn't seem that it's actually working. Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on. Exit. We're going back to this one. The next step that we can do, and this is something that is available right onto the Discord channel in this case. If I do this, Python. So you saw initially we had Marcus, right, as the user and groups. If I do this, technically speaking, we're going to be root all the way in. So who am I? I'm root, ID, root all the way except for Marcus. Which is part of the groups, and then PWD. Am I still CD? Oh yeah, that's right. I was in the wrong place. That's why. Cat root root.txt. There we go. So when I did the root over top, I did not realize I was still in the Docker. So that simply took us from EUID root to UID root. Yeah, so it's basically like the way that you're going to be able to see there is like the OSS set ID. Sorry, my bad on my spelling mistake. So OS set UID 0, OS set GID 0, right? Will basically fix the issue that we had initially of not being able to have the UID and GID as root. So there's some stuff like, even though you're going to see that people is going to say, yeah, you're root, you're technically root, yes, but technically not at the same time. There's some stuff you're not going to be able to do. So by utilizing this specific command, again, can be found onto our Discord channel under the Linux, what's it called again? I think it's Linux, not essentials. Give me a second. I'll tell you for sure. I just put it yesterday or something like that. So that's the thing. So, oh no, Linux related. So if you go under Linux related, you're going to find this specific command plus a little bit more. And as I go through and I found other things that I need to share with you guys, for sure, I'm going to do that. So basically I was answering this comment over here from Tim S. I'm assuming that should be answering your question here. There's nothing else that has been done but change our group and make sure that Linux understands that we are actually root 100%. So that's basically it on this case. If there's any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. In the meantime, we're going to move on and ask our good friend Steve to jump on stage and tell us how good the blue team should have been to be able to prevent those type of privilege escalation.
Yeah, so let's see here. I'm going to swing back. Okay, I don't have a slide for that, but that's okay. Basically, one of the first things you can do, and I guess hence the whole purple team concept, is when you understand what JF did to, detect any files with the set UID bit set, you do that as well, right? So when you know that that is a way into your environment, you should be checking on that. And while JF did it all manually, you can set up scripts to do that. You can, if you're using an EDR product, there's a good chance that it will have that functionality for file detection. If not, you'll probably be able to write some sort of a detection rule. And then essentially, once you have that automated to say, okay, I know that these are my files with SUID bit set, you just monitor them, right? So that should go to a repository somewhere so you can manage that. If anything changes, you should be alerted. If you take inventory of all those files from the get-go, you might say, okay, what's the justification behind the SUID bit on some of these files? So a lot of it, while a good portion of it is technical, a lot of it is also procedural. discussion oriented, let's call it. And the first thing though is you have to understand what the attack surface looks like. You have to know how many of these files you're going to be dealing with, how many of these files you should be dealing with, how are you dealing with them. So really, and then from the exploitation of Docker, the version was out of date. So how are you going to protect that? Are you going to have some sort of container security product that's telling you, hey, this Docker container is out of date. This Docker container could be exploited using XYZ attacks. You might have something like Sneak that you use to give you that vulnerability outlook, let's say, and help you identify that attack surface. So really at this point, when you know of a specific attack and you know how the attacker gets the foothold, the attacker escalates privileges, you should be monitoring that, right? So you should be actively hunting, but also passively monitoring. And those are really, the big things, right? So otherwise, you've got your EDR, if you've got some sort of log management, I don't even know if you call it SIM anymore, or analytics tools where, you have this big data lake and you just look for the anomalies. So that is really how you counteract a lot of that that pivoting, that privilege escalation. You have to understand how it happens. So that's with your regular pen testing, and then derive artifacts from whether it's someone's broke in, so it's an incident, or whether it's I've been pen testing and I found this evidence that says these vulnerabilities are real and we are able to exploit them. You then take those artifacts, use them as leads in your threat hunting capability, and just do your damnedest to to make sure that you're at least aware of the issues if you're not able to completely lock down the application or the system. So that's pretty much my thoughts and feelings on that one. So no slide really needed, I suppose. Any questions, comments, thoughts, anything I missed? Are there a lot of people that are, I guess, in this group that are on the defensive side or more on the red team side?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I don't know exactly where people are standing exactly instead of like either are they doing red, are they doing blue, or are they both?
Yeah, ideally we should all be purple.
The Docker config file. I mean, we could take a look at it. Yes. I'm not an expert into Docker when it comes to that, so I can try to take a look at like if you know exactly where it's supposed to be at, I can try to take a look at it for sure. Unless Steve, you know exactly by heart where it's at or what it's called.
Well, let's go into the Docker file and we'll just see if it's just like the Docker file.
All right. Well, we have access to everywhere. So where would it be normally, that Docker file they're talking about? Is it the .docker environment that you talked about, that you would have all your information?
That's part of it, but there's usually just a file, a Docker file with a capital D.
ENV. Interested in both. Yasmin is both. It's interesting.
Nice.
So there's 0 in here. Sorry, trying to comment on this over mobile was a huge mistake. Yeah, it can be hard sometimes. No, I can try to find it. I mean, like, we're a little bit over time, so if you guys want to stick around, I don't have other stuff right now, and then I can keep going a little bit, and then we can try to find some information. At the same time, Tim, if you ever want to get access to those machines 24 hours ahead, or even like as we're trying to explain those things, feel free to come and request it into the chat on our Discord server. Let's see. Do we have? And you said it's Docker capital.
Yeah.
So name, and you said how it was like Docker, like
Docker
that,
file, all one word.
or like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see how it goes. Dev, no. So we don't have that.
Okay, because where the application is installed locally, and then when you actually kick off like Docker Compose or something, that's what it reads to build it. So it might not actually be on the box, because it might not have been necessary.
Yeah, it's possible. Let's just do a Docker search and see how many things comes up with Docker. So we got bin Docker there, package.
So it could be, it might be etc Docker.
etc Docker?
But I don't know. Or if that's a directory, then it's...
Yeah, it's a directory.
Okay, so what's in there?
KGSON, I can take a look at that. Or JSON, I should say.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there's any relevancy for that. If there's a compose file, then the Docker file might not be present. If this is too great of a tangent, please excuse. Yeah, no problem. I mean, like, we can take a look. If there's other stuff that comes up in the meantime, we can do that. But obviously, very soon, we may have to go. But if that's interesting you, eventually, I'm looking at probably doing like long run, 1 day hacking and just have fun with people. So that might be another thing that we can probably just do and have fun with there, right? So people can jump in and out. I mean, like, same thing for me, but at least I give a platform to myself, and Hack the Box provide the platform for you guys to be able to hack and have fun all together. So that could be another thing too we could do. Let's see, do we have Docker? No, all those Docker does not work.
You could try, you can try Compose.
Yeah. Whoops. Dev null. Compose. We have a bin compose here, and those ones here seems to be in there. So sounds fun. Maybe we'll tackle it then. There's multiple machines. I think probably at that point we can probably either do an active machine. Maybe that could be even more fun, where you guys can potentially get points and then increase your ranks eventually onto the Hack the Box platform. Compose file. There's a compose file. So is that what you're talking about, Tim? Probably at this point, the compose file is there. So maybe that's the reason why we don't get a Docker file. LSLA, but we're going to do it onto compose here. Run melcap. So
okay, I think that's not the same.
It's probably not.
For mail, sounds like.
I was referring to a YAML file, probably. Okay, no, so there's no YAML file there, as far as I can tell. We could take a look as well on, let's say, .yml. I mean, like, probably we're gonna get a bunch. Oh, maybe not. No. You wrote it with an A. I never seen it with A. Let's try it. No, nothing either. Yeah, so probably the config file is probably somewhere else. Is there like a config? Well, there's a bunch of config. But...
yeah, like it could have been removed maybe because it wasn't necessary to, because the Docker's already been built. Yeah, exactly. It's quite possible. I think it's probably the way that it's done. Maybe that's something for another day. But thank you, Tim, for offering this, or at least proposing this. That could have been very informative, for sure. So, all right, good. I mean, like, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to ask? We're pretty much running towards the end of, well, pretty much. We went a little bit over time, 11 minutes, but I'm all here. If you guys want to stick around, Steve, you're more than welcome if you still have a little bit of time. If we have questions in the chat and want to be interactive, we can probably stay for another like 15 minutes or so.
and then move on. But if there's no questions or so on, obviously we're gonna sit down again, probably maybe next week or so, and try and take a look for our next iteration of the Hack the Box meetup. We absolutely want to do more Hack the Box meetup. We want to keep going like this. If we want to, if we can, we're going to do more, or we're going to try to diversify the way that we're doing things. This is obviously a different type of model, because a lot of times people, when they do Hack the Box machines, they're going to do only the attacking, and then they're going to tell you, oh, this is how they found X, this is how they found Y. But at the end of the day, I think it's not going to be as informative as if you have a guy like Steve that comes in and then tells you even more information on how to be able to defend yourself. Obviously, he's going to tell you many times, patch your machines, right? It's going to be one of them. But like any other like CISO or any like business executive, and even anybody on the shop floor will tell you, depending on the actual like organization, it's almost impossible to be able to maintain how technology is evolving and how much protection we need to put in place, right? So obviously, the other way around, we could say we have like a ton of people, we have a ton of money, so we put everything into a place to be able to buy all the devices we need to, right? We're perfectly configured. However, if we don't have, let's say, for example, a good, what's it called again? A good cybersecurity awareness program in place that's been done by, I don't know, like maybe not a CISO, but somebody specialized into that area to be able to train people correctly, it could be the secretary, the issue, right? It's not necessarily technology, because if the secretary has access to internet and is not tech savvy, doesn't know, and then click on a link, well, maybe that could be that secretary that will give the path inside your organization. Yeah. So
it could be your CEO.
Yeah. Oh, CEO. It's spear phishing. I was talking to a guy. I went to a RCMP conference. I think it was a year ago, just a little bit less than a year ago, and the RCMP invited a bunch of C-suite all together to be able to talk about it. Talk about like cybersecurity to organizations. They talk about it at a high level. But there was a guy that was there. I don't recall his name, but I'm quite sure it's probably not what it is. But either way, a guy from CSIS was describing a bunch of different things. And CSIS, by the way, if you guys are not aware, or maybe from the US, it's the same thing as the CIA. So he was basically describing a bunch of different attacks, right? That could be done. And then during that conversation, there's a guy from PwC, one of those big four firm, that was taking care of the attacking side of the firm. And he was saying that, look, if I have to pinpoint and trying to figure out a way to get into an organization, a lot of times we're trying to take a look at the CEO, because if we're able to infiltrate his home, technically speaking, we're able to infiltrate. I'm saying his home is like his computers, his devices at home, right? We are going to be able to figure out a way to get inside the company regardless, right? So there is ways to be able to do that. The building up the sense of urgencies as well as another thing too that can be done. And that's why like those programs, like the cybersecurity awareness program, is extremely important, because it doesn't matter how much technology you're going to have in place, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to protect yourself correctly, because it could be, and I'm not saying that secretary are dumb at all, right? That's not what I'm saying. I think they're needed into an organization, but we need to make sure they're trained, and not just to think about, say again?
It's a side load. So like you can throw whatever you want at the firewalls, but in layered defense, there's a human layer, right? And oftentimes it's the layered defense. You think of it as the castle, blah, 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 but it's never the person who opens the side door when someone knocks, right? So it doesn't matter who they are, but if they click the wrong email, you could be screwed.
Exactly. And the other thing too is, by training them is not necessarily inside the organizations, but if you're able to help your employees, I mean, like, I'm not too sure at which level, if you're, let's say, at the shop floor, you're learning all these things, that's something you can help open up the eyes of your management, in this case, or executive, right? To say, look, the more the people are going to be able to protect themselves from work, and also might not protect themselves from work, but at work and at home as well, the better they will be. Because if they get compromised at home, it could get worse in the long run, right? Even for the organization. So these things needs to be done. And one of the easiest entry point in every attacks, and probably one of the person that unfortunately passed away, which is Kevin Mitnick, one of those guys that was very much into that type of stuff, right? Into doing social engineering. So this is something that's extremely important to understand and master. And if you don't know, well, that's probably the way that those hackers are going to be able to get in. So, all right. So I don't see. I see something here. See. All right. I don't see anything else that seems to be like a question or anything like that. So from this point on, I think you did a good job, Steve. And
Thanks.
Really happy.
Well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really happy to have been able to do this session with all of you guys. And we're going to post as soon as we can onto the Meetup page and also Discord channel whenever is our next session. So until then, I wish you Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Whatever suits you. And then we'll see you in January 2024. So Happy New Year.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.